Welcome back to another edition of the Sooner Pocket Podcast. Sam Knight here with Chris. Make sure to check out our blog each week before and after our scheduled games, www.soonerpocket.com. Lots of great content there. Nice recaps, previews, all the works. Chris, coming off a very weak offensive performance. Things looked really good on the second try at the first possession of the game after the phantom muffed punt. Um, I don't know. I feel like we thought things were going to go differently after that first possession there. We got the ball back. We scored in one play. Um, Walk me through what you were seeing, where things fell through.
You know, at the end of the day, it just boils down to who we have available. That's it. Brent Venables put it best when he was addressing one of the members of the media. I can't remember who, but he put it best when he said, "There's a reason the ones are ones, the twos are twos, the threes are threes, et cetera, et cetera." We are down four of our five best wide receivers. Our five best wide receivers, in no particular order, are Deion Burks, Jalil Farouk, Andrew Anthony, Nick Anderson, and Jaden Gibson. Of those, Jaden Gibson is out for the season. Jalil Farouk is out for the next, let's see here, at this point now, 4 to 6 weeks, because it's already been 2 weeks since they said 4 to 6. Nick Anderson, no idea when he'll be playing. We keep hearing that he's week to week and he keeps showing up on the depth chart, but he hasn't put on pads once this year. Andrew Anthony, he's been playing, but they've thrown him out on like one snap every other drive. The offensive line, oh, and Deion Burks is fine. The offensive line, it's trial by committee. They don't know who they have consistently in there. I mean, true freshman Eddie Pierre Lewis is now one of the backups this week, which I'm happy to see that for him. But also, if you remember correctly, he was a late enrollee. And so is that he's playing so good or our offensive line is so bad? There's so much that we're missing on our offense. It's hard to have a good offense when you're missing half of your starters. But our defense bailed us out. Uh, Putting up that performance against Houston, we that one touchdown was just kind of a fluke. I remember yelling, they're confused" before the ball was thrown. But uh, honestly, other than that, they shut them down. And when was the last time we had a dominant defense and a terrible offense?
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, um, it's a novel feeling, um, being concerned about the offense and having to rely on the defense to win us a game. I'm sure we can remember some of the West Virginia, the Texas Tech, those kind of games from the Lincoln Riley era, where we went in there knowing that it was just going to come down to who got the ball last. That's who was going to win. And fortunately, in a lot of those, it was us. Most, if not all of them, in the Lincoln Riley era. Um, it was us that got it, but there was no counting on the defense to do anything. Here, Grayson Halton, I know, came up big twice in this win against Houston, um, most notably getting the safety at the end, which another one, kind of a 50-50 call, was probably going to stick however it was called on the field. I don't think they had enough to overturn it either way, had it been called one way or the other. So interesting to see for sure. Oklahoma rebounds this week. Hopefully, headed back into Gaylord, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium against a team that right now is averaging about 482 a game on offense. Really doing a nice job. It's a team that almost beat Kansas State last week. They were one or two plays at the end, um, one or two plays away from taking down Kansas State, and that's a Kansas State team that is struggling a little bit tonight with Arizona. But both teams are ranked. Arizona's a good Big 12 team. Same for Kansas State. Kansas State's likely got a path to the playoff at the end of the season. Whether or not they get there, who knows? But um, Oklahoma bringing in possibly some new depth this coming week against Tulane with Eddie Pierre Lewis on the offensive line. We'll be relying a lot, obviously, on Deion Burks and some of the other fellows there. Deion Burks and Brennan Thompson at wide receiver, anyway. Um, got J.J. Hester and Zion Reagans potentially stepping in the absence of Jalil Farouk, the likely absence of Nick Anderson. Um, so we're going to have to see what happens. Really, I think what we're looking for this week from the offense is the ability to establish the run game. We have no run game right now that's consistent. And if you don't have a run game, then you don't really have an offense because there's nothing there to keep the defense honest. Um, and I think on defense, um, we just need to be ready to buckle up at the line of scrimmage. Um, right now, we are losing the battle at the line offensively. Defensively, we are really dominating the line of scrimmage, getting sacks, getting penetration for tackles for loss. Danny Stutzman, for one, Mike linebacker, just ravaging these opposing offensive lines. Hoping we can continue some of that this week. And I think those are going to be our keys to the game. Establish a run game and then control the defensive line of scrimmage. Don't give them much room to run the ball. They're running about 195 a game right now. And take away their quarterback's time and ability to process the field in front of him.
I agree with you 100% there. And something that's really going to help us in establishing the ground game and doing everything that you mentioned offensively is third down. We have had a disaster when it comes to our first and second down play calling. Last week, our average distance to go on third down was 9 yards. That was the average, 9 yards. Even in Jeff Lebby's explosive offense and Lincoln Riley's explosive offense, they did not make 3rd and 9 routine. They The reason those offenses were so good on third down was because it was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4. It was third and short. And we're going to have to establish that running game so we can put ourselves in third and short scenarios because at the end of the day, you are going to go to third down. It doesn't matter if you are playing the Alabama Crimson Tide or the Maine Black Bears, you will go to third down at some point in the game. It is a heck of a lot easier to convert 3rd and 2 than it is 3rd and 12. And so if we can establish a run game, that would really help us. And part of that involves getting Gavin Sawchuk the ball. We know how good of a running back he is, but I don't think he even has 10 carries in the first 2 games of the season. I don't know why we don't have a consistent running back that we're feeding the ball when we know how good Gavin Sawchuk is. It's confusing to say the least, but honestly, if we can do that on offense, we'll be set. And Tulane, they don't exactly have the best rushing defense in college football. Last week against Kansas State, they allowed, I want to say they allowed 6.5 yards a rush over 200 yards. So we really just have to be ready to out physical them at the line of scrimmage. And with the defense, I agree with everything you're saying about the defensive line, but honestly, I have no doubts about them. What I really want to see us do is dominate in the secondary, have cornerbacks just draped over wide receivers, them and the safeties smacking passes down to the ground. Because the issues that we've had on our defense in the past couple weeks have been few and far between, but they've been in pass coverage. We'll see these receivers. We saw it against Temple and we saw it against Houston with no cornerback or safety within 10 yards of them. They're just wide open running across the field, whether it's 5 yards away or 20 yards away, they're wide open. And luckily, we're not allowing it too much, but that's how these teams are getting all their yards. And Tulane has a much better quarterback than Temple or Houston did. So if we can shore up our issues in the secondary, which, like I said, there aren't many, but if we can condense what we're allowing in the secondary, we are putting ourselves in a much better position to really dominate Tulane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Going to be interesting for sure. I I wonder about our offense's ability to put up the points that we'll need um, to win not just this game, but the games coming up. Um, Tennessee and our SEC opener facing off against Auburn. Um, a lot of that starts right now with Tulane. Tulane, surprisingly enough, is the first real test that we're going to have on the schedule, at least. I don't think many people looked at Houston going into that week as a test. I certainly didn't. I think I said the score was going to be 63-6 OU, and that was ambitious. So we're going to see what happens. I know Oklahoma right now is a 13 and a half point favorite on Tulane. They opened in the week at 14 and a half, and they've been fluctuating between that 12 and a half to 13 and a half mark. People really loading up on Tulane to cover, and some loading up on Oklahoma. So it's going to be interesting. If I was going to nail down a prediction for this game, I'm going to come out and say 24-21 Oklahoma. Eke out another win.
I see what you're saying there. The way I see it is our defense is just too good. Something that I'm seeing a lot when I'm scouring college football pages, groups, subreddits, you name it, is the view on Oklahoma right now is that the offense isn't great, but the defense is elite. I saw a number of people saying that Oklahoma could score 20 points a game this season, and they'd go 8-4, maybe even 9-3 if they really get lucky in a game or two, because that is just an elite defense that Brent Venables and Zach Alley are leading. I think Tulane, they might hang around in the first half. Most of their points, if not all their points, will come in the first half, and I think we'll probably shut them down in the second half. That's what happened last week against Kansas State. They led 20-10 at halftime. Final score 34-27 Kansas State. Granted, Tulane almost won it there at the end, but that's beside the point. My score prediction is 27-10. I think our offense they're probably not gonna do too much. We'll see the special teams make a couple field goals, but if unless we get both Andrew Anthony and Nick Anderson back out there consistently, I don't see any way that we're constant. I don't see any way that we're scoring 30 points or more, especially if we can't establish the run game. On top of that, I think our defense is just too good. I don't see a way that we allow 20 points tomorrow.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. You might end up right. Um, Across the rest of the college football landscape, we got some good matchups this week. LSU playing against South Carolina. That's going to probably be a better game than it might appear. I know it's easy to look at the ranking disparity, see that South Carolina is not ranked, see LSU at 16 and think, yeah, well, LSU's going to ball them out. I don't see it happening. I think we're in for a tight one there. Got the Civil War up in Oregon as well. Dylan Gabriel getting, again, similar to OU, he's getting his first real schedule test. Had a really weak couple of games. I know he turned the ball over last week, maybe twice by himself. I remember he fumbled at least once, and I think he had another fumble or an interception. So that's going to be interesting to say the least. Utah and Utah State facing off. Got Alabama going up to Madison in what I think is going to be a blowout. Alabama right now 16 and a half point favorite. They probably cover that and more. What game are you most looking forward to this week aside from ours? For me, it's the Oregon State game. I think the Beavers there have a real good shot at knocking off the Ducks.
Absolutely. I could definitely see that happening. There are two games really that well, three games to be specific that I'm really going to be following closely. First one is Alabama versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin under Luke Fickell reminds me a lot of Texas under Tom Herman. They play to their competition's level. I feel like ever since Luke Fickell took over, we've seen Wisconsin go up against Little Sisters of the Poor, and the final score is 14-10. And then the next week, they'll go up against of course they haven't done this, but just hypothetically, they'll go up against, let's say, Georgia, and the final score would be something like 27-17, to where like they're sticking with them for a while, but then Georgia pulls away at the end and wins it. So I think, especially with how we saw Alabama play against South Florida last week, I think Wisconsin has a good chance of making it an exciting first half. And I think the third quarter is definitely going to be telling. Alabama, no matter what the score is, though, will definitely put the game away in the fourth quarter. I don't see anything affecting that. Then there's another game where if I told you 2 or 3 years ago this was a ranked on ranked matchup, you might have slapped me. Number 24 Boston College versus number 6 Missouri. I'm just kind of interested to see how those teams do. See if Boston College can keep their ranking. I can't even remember the last time that they were ranked. And
I can't
finally,
either, man.
finally, got number 18 Notre Dame versus Purdue. They're playing at Purdue. We all know how Purdue plays whenever they're at home against a ranked team. And so I'm interested to see how that one plays, especially with Notre Dame coming off that terrible, terrible loss to Northern Illinois. I still don't know how they lost that one. But those are the three I've really got my eye on. You never know. Tulsa might be able to pull out the upset against Oklahoma State. Utah, their offense is looking stale, and Cam Rising might not play. So watch for them against Utah State. But a lot of these other games will likely be blowouts.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think one of the more interesting things will be to see if Notre Dame can cover the 7.5 point spread against Purdue. Um, because I'm inclined to say Purdue is probably going to cover that spread. Um, I don't know that they'll win outright, but I think they at least cover. Um, Notre Dame's offense is MIA right now. It feels like offenses in the top 25, there's probably a solid half of the teams in the top 25 with really stale offenses. Um, Not sure what that's about right now, but
It's definitely your defense. And one other thing about Notre Dame, their quarterback, they were all hooting and hollering about Riley Leonard when he transferred from Duke in the offseason. We're 2 games into the season. He has yet to throw a touchdown pass. It's with all that talent around him, that's a problem.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's the Sooner Pocket Podcast. Um, let's look forward to a good weekend this week against Tulane, God willing. The offense to show backup Jackson Arnold to get subbed out because we are blowing out Tulane.
Yes.
That's the only scenario I want to see Jackson Arnold subbed out of that game. It's going to be a good one, tight game, but let's look forward to it. Everybody have a safe weekend. Enjoy watching the Sooner football product and Boomer Sooner. Make sure to visit
Boomer Sooner.
SoonerPocket.com right up here. Lots of good content, and we'll catch you next time.